right, it's time for the bobble stitch square. This is one of my most favorite ones to make because it adds so much texture and depth to your blankets. In this square, I have it placed in the bottom section of the blanket, and it's just a lot of fun to work on. If we take a look at the square here, you can see that it is offset, meaning the blankets are, or not the blanket, the bobbles are offset. So I'm going to work a bobble stitch in the middle or between these two bobbles on the next row up. We're going to learn how to really make these bobbles pop by my little own tip and trick that I'm going to share with you. So come on over here and let's get started. I'm going to move this along. I'm just going to move it right up there out of the way. I'm going to grab my yarn. Today I'm using Red Heart with Love worsted weight, Aran weight yarn, and a size 6mm crochet hook. Just like any stitch pattern that you begin with, usually you begin with a slip knot, so I went ahead and created a slip knot and placed that on my hook. In my pattern over here, you can see it says bobble stitch square, and in the pattern I have it listed as green, so you know that it's the green square. And we're going to work the in-class block. So we're going to begin with the chain 15. There are written instructions for how to complete this block, and then there is a full chart. So the chart here actually has all of the symbols and all the original chains for this chain 16. In this lesson, I'm going to refer to the chart quite a bit because it's easier to refer back to the chart than follow along with the words sometimes. If the charts are new for you, don't worry. The words are still right there for you. You can follow along with the words and maybe glance down at the chart to see if maybe the chart will be a little bit more revealed to you, sort of like the matrix coming clear. Hopefully I can help you out with that. You can see here, if you were to count all of these chains, which are the ovals, there are 15 of them. Same thing that's written up here, chain 15. So we're going to begin with that. If you need a refresher on how to do the slip knot or the basic chain stitch, those are available right here on this channel, Marley Bird, in the beginner basics section. As I've been talking to you guys, I've been forgetting to count. So I'm just going to keep going and then I'll count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I crack myself up sometimes. I'm the funniest person I know. Okay, so we're reading across the chart this way, and the reason we're doing it this way is we see that this row number 1, the number 1 is out here. If we were over on this side, we would be reading the chart initially from this direction coming back. But because our number 1 is over here, we're going to read it from this direction and then come back this way. So I can see by looking at the chart, we're going to skip 1, 2, 3 chains, and we're going to put a double crochet in the 4th chain from hook. You can see that this double crochet symbol is a T with a slash through it. Just for, grins, I'm going to come up here and show you in the word section, skip 3 chains, double crochet in each chain at the end of round. One thing I'm going to also point out right here is these chain 3s. Sometimes it's very confusing whether those chains actually count as a stitch or not count as a stitch. As beginners, we tend to, question, well, is that my last stitch? Is that not my last stitch? One thing that's convenient about charts, again, if you've looked at some of the other squares or other lessons in the beginner basics, you'll see that the next row, if you skip up and look at what the next row, what the last stitch is it worked into that chain or is it worked into one of the actual stitches? And because we have it worked into that chain, we know that that chain is going to be the last chain of our row or the last stitch of our row. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab a removable stitch marker and I'm going to mark that chain right now. And it's the one that is right beneath the chain on my, or the loop on my hook. So I do not count the loop on my hook. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to put a double crochet into the 4th chain from hook. So right there, that's where I want to stick that puppy. Pretty easy. Now if I glance at the chart here, I can see, oh, that's a bunch of double crochets all the way to the end of the row. Even though these look like they're squattier, they're still double crochets. They're squattier to make room for that symbol above. So that doesn't really mean anything. It's just so that it can make it a picture of what we're going to create. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to complete double crochets all the way to the end of the row. Once again, if you need a refresher course on how to do double crochets, please check out the other videos on this channel, Marley Bird. I've put them all up there for you. I've gone to a lot of I don't want to say a lot of extent. I've done a lot of time to make sure that all the information you need is right here on this channel. You don't need to go anywhere else. So if there's something that you would like to see me add, please leave a comment and kind of give me an input of what else you'd like me to add to this channel. Because, you know, the more you tell me, the more I can give you what you want. So it's all about you, right? Help me out. So I'm going down here. I'm to the end of my chains with my double crochet. I'm going to finish up to the very last one, and I've completed that. So I have my row of double crochets. I can see over here on row 2, you can see my number row 2, there's a chain 1 out here, and then I'm going to do 2 single crochets in the top of those 2 double crochets. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. I'm going to remind you that it does not matter whether you chain 1 and turn or turn and chain 1. So I'm going to put 2 single crochets. Then it has this funny looking symbol, and see how it looks like it's a bunch of double crochets, but they're all finished with one little top hat. This is the bobble stitch. What we're going to do is we're going to create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 partial double crochets, and then we're going to yarn over and draw through all of the loops on our hook to create it so that it's one stitch. So we're going to do that like this. Listen to me as I talk through this and work along with me. Yarn over your hook, go into the next stitch, yarn over your hook and pull up a loop. You now have 3 loops. Yarn over hook, draw through 2. You're left with 2 loops. Do not complete the double crochet by yarning over and pulling through 2. Stop there. So that's our first partial. So we're going to do our second partial. We yarn over our hook, go into the same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over our hook, draw through 2. So our second partial. Yarn over our hook, go into the stitch, yarn over your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over your hook, draw through 2. We have 3. Yarn over our hook, go into the stitch, yarn over your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over your hook, pull through 2. So that's 4. Yarn over your hook, go into the stitch, yarn over your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over your hook, and pull through 2. So that's 5. You can see it gets a little bit crowded right there. Here's a little tip. If you've lost count along the way, say the kids came in and, you know, Mom, what's time for dinner? Or what are you going to have for dinner? You can count how many loops are on your hook, and you're going to have one more loop than you have partially completed double crochets. So that's a quick way for you to say, how many did I complete? Okay, so that was my original loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool, I've done my 5. So I have my 6 loops on there. I'm going to yarn over my hook. And I'm going to draw my hook through all 6 of those, all of them at once. Give it a pull, give it a nice snug, okay? Here's my tip. This is not written in the pattern. This is purely my tip for you, okay? When I pull stitches together like that, I like to finish them off with a chain 1, and then I pull that chain really tight. And what that does is it makes those bobble stitches pop. Now it's important to remember that you've added that chain 1, because when we do our row coming back, we do not want to put a stitch into that chain 1. We're just going to let it disappear. It's purely there to make our stitches pop out, okay? That's my little designer tip to you guys, okay? I've had a lot of people who will say to me, well, wait a minute, Marley, I like doing bobbles, but they tend to be really flat. I don't see what you mean about getting all this texture, because I just don't get that. That's how I create the texture for my bobble. We can look in the chart here. It says a single crochet in the next 3 doubles, so that's what I've just done. And then we have another double crochet bobble sticking right here. So we're going to complete another one of those. Yarn over your hook, go into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. We're going to do that a total of 5 times. Again, what's really cool is I can sit here and talk to you guys as I'm completing it, and in the end, I can count the loops on my hook to see if I have the full 5. So I don't have to worry too much about counting right here at the beginning. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's my 1 extra 6. So I have 1 more than I need, which is perfect. 1 more loop than I have completed. Yarn over, pull through all of them, give it a little pull, and then I'm going to add with my chain 1 to really make it nice and snug and let it pop out. You can finish this row with the 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. And in the chart, you can see it does 1 more bobble, so I'm going to do that. I'm not going to talk you through this one. I know you can do it. You've done 2 so far. At this point, you should know how to do it. Be no problem. It can be, oh my gosh, look at me. I'm so talented, because it's all about being the coolest in your stitch group, right? Absolutely. See, Marley Bird taught me. So I finished it off. I'm tightening up, I do my chain 1, and then I can see here in my chart, I have a single crochet into this double, then I'm putting that single crochet into the 3rd chain of my turning chain, which I was smart enough to mark before. So I'm going to do my single, and I'm going to put my single right there into that turning chain. Okay? If I were to set this down, you can see right here, there's our 3 bobbles, there's our 3 bobbles in the chart. The next row is super easy. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my marker here. I want to point out down here at the end of row 3, this double crochet is going to that single. It's not going into that chain 1. So I'm going to put my marker in the top of that single crochet. So I know that's the end of my row. I'm on row 3. It says chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And this is super easy, right? It says double crochet. Now, as beginners, we tend to think, okay, we got to put this double into this single we just finished on the last row. But by looking at the chart, we can see, no, these chain 3s are counting as a stitch right there above that single crochet. So we will not put our double into that single. We're going to begin with our double into the 2nd single. So if I yarn over, I'm not going to go into this one. I'm going to go into this one, right? That's going to be my first double crochet. And then it shows that you just double crochet along the whole way back. This is the part that I wanted to remind you. Do not count that chain 1 that I told you to do as a stitch, otherwise you'll have too many stitches. So right here I'm coming up, I can see my chain 1, it's right there, because I pulled it really tight, so it's a really tight stitch. Then I have the top of my bobble, it's kind of this elongated V, it's really kind of easy to find because it's so elongated, and I'm going to put my double crochet into that. And then I know I have 3 singles, so I'm going to put a double crochet in each single, all the way across, and then again I'm going to put my double not into my chain but into the top of the bobble, which is that elongated V. It's the top of the stitch right there. We only have 1 V because we only did partial double crochets to complete that bobble, but when we pulled through those 6 loops on our hook at the very end all at the same time, that's why we only get 1 V at the very top. It's not 5 individual V's, okay? So at the very end here, if I were to go back and count all my stitches, I would have the same number of double crochets as I began with in my foundation chain. So I'm going to set that down. I'm turning this around as if I had turned it. You can see I've completed this, this, and this, and I would carry on. Now, you would repeat rows 2 through 5 for the pattern repeat, and the row 4 is exactly the same as row 2 with the exception of the placement of the bobble. So instead of beginning with 2 singles, you're going to begin with 4 singles and then begin a bobble. And that's what gives the bobbles a different placement in the pattern itself. Pretty easy, right? I think it's pretty easy, and it just looks so cute. I think it looks great in this hot pink color. Really perfect for a little girl. So now you know how to do the bobble stitch. I'm excited to see what you do with your bobble stitch and complete the various squares or scarf or hat or whatever it is you decide to make with the bobble stitch.